as you already mentioned, we're going to be talking about Magistral. And you see we have the subtext there, prostate health. Now, typically, you'll also see this for men only. But, you know, here's the surprise we're talking about. When you get into the research about the components and what they all do, you'll see that maybe it's not just men that are going to feel the benefits of this product. Well, let's get back to some basics. Here we see the male anatomy, the cross-section. And you'll see that little walnut-sized thing at the base of the bladder, that's the man's prostate. Now, the formal indications for the Magistral is for the use in prostatic hypertrophy. That's just another word for enlarged prostate. Now, please keep in mind that we are not talking about prostate cancer. We're talking about an enlarged prostate. So there are secondary benefits that you're also going to find out about if you start doing your homework, and that might include things like erectile dysfunction and cleansing of the urine and others. But please remember, these other indications don't show up on our claims or on our packaging. These are secondary theoretical benefits based on the current literature. So how does this work? You'll see that that prostate on the left there is a gland that surrounds the urethra. The urethra is that little tube that drains the bladder. And you see, again, on the left, how the urine needs to pass through that little hole before it gets eliminated. Now, when you look at the slide on the right, you see what happens when that prostate gets larger. Not only does it get larger outwards, it gets larger inwards, and that squeezes down the tube and tightens it up so the urine does not flow easily through it. And that's where all the problems begin. Now, here's the issue. As we get older, the prostate gets bigger and bigger. Now, here's some numbers that are really easy to remember. Medical students love these numbers because they're really easy to remember for their exams. 40% of 40-year-olds, 40-40, will have some signs of prostatic hypertrophy. Numbers stay just as easy. 50% of 50-year-olds will have some signs of prostatic hypertrophy. And believe it or not, 80% of 80-year-olds will have some evidence of a prostate problem. Now, at this rate, you can consider an enlarged prostate almost as a normal part of the aging process. So what are these guys feeling? Well, here's a whole list of potential symptoms that you can look out for. And many men aren't even aware that these symptoms are potentially a big problem. So if you have any of these, or you see your husband or boyfriend has any of these, you got to go see a doctor. Because unfortunately, understand this, the same symptoms of an enlarged prostate are also the same symptoms of prostate cancer. And we need to differentiate between the two. Number one, and no pun intended, having to go more often, I mean really having to go. That's the first sign. Number two, frequent visits to the bathroom in the middle of the night or on the golf course. Number three, men can't just stand 2 feet away from the bowl like you used to as a kid and actually reach it. The stream is much weaker. But there's more. You might feel like you still have to pee even after you've finished. It might hurt when you're peeing. You may be able to perform as well in bed, or you may not be able to perform as well in bed. You see, I told you it's not just for men. And finally, even worse, you can have politely what we call accidents. This is not fun. So to the rescue, Magistral. Now, Magistral has 5 different components. Most natural prostate formulas have only one, the saw palmetto. But we also have ginkgo and ginseng, damiana, and miura. Let's look at some of these. The damiana, this is a natural herb used in traditional medicine for sexual vitality. But again, we're not going to overtly advertise Magistral for that. It also antibacterial properties, which certainly comes into play with men with a prostate hypertrophy. And damiana, although traditional medicines are interesting, y'all know me by now. whenever we bring something up, there has to be research behind the product. So it's more than just traditional medicine. You have to look at the research. And when you look up the research on Damiana, you'll find on PubMed, I welcome you all to go to pubmed.gov for any good research articles without the hype, without the marketing. You'll find over 150 studies on this. Remind you, these are human studies I'm talking about, not just studies. Ginkgo, there's one that you all heard about, and many applications, including male issues, and some even for female issues. Ginkgo, I need to mention that there are many benefits for ginkgo, but there are some what we call relative contraindications. Okay, so you always have to check with any product, whether it's ours or another company. You need to check with your pharmacist or with your health professional whether these are going to cause an issue for you. Now, ginkgo, again, look at the research. Geez, almost 2,000 articles on humans, not just studies. I'm just talking about human studies now. Ginseng, again, very well recognized, and application studies for both men and women. Now, look at that root on the right, and it's pretty cool looking, and you could see what wonderful shapes that ginseng root could take on. Look at this. I mean, it often takes the shape of a human being, and it's theorized because it takes on these shapes. This is what was attractive to our ancestors and drew their attention to it. It looks like a person, maybe can help a person. Well, along those lines, I'll leave it to your imaginations of what these ginseng roots look like. You know, just a hint, has something to do with men. Finally, this one. It's a combination of a human body, plus it's anatomically correct for a man. So now, if you were a medicinal shaman 4,000 years ago, what would you use this for? Okay, back to science. Wow, over 25,000 human studies on ginseng and growing. There's something called Murapuama. This is a wood from a certain tree, and you can see that it's been used for both male and female applications historically, but there are, in fact, human studies done on this. And finally, this is the most important component of magistral, saw palmetto. This is something that's well recognized by the medical community, and if you go over to Europe, for example, many doctors actually will write you a prescription for it. So look at the leaf, you'll see where the name comes from, saw palmetto. Now, here is where Immunotech's magistral differs from most of the other saw palmettos out there. This is what our marketing department calls a USP, the unique selling proposition. Listen carefully. Saw palmetto it's not just a leaf, it also can produce berries. And it's the berries that contain the highest amount of the active ingredients. We at Immunotech only use the berries, and it's in liquid form. So this is a major point of difference. So how do these active ingredients in the berries work? They are testosterone blockers. In simpler terms, it's the male hormones that cause the prostate to swell. And by blocking the male hormones, you reduce the swelling. And also, if you look up what the research demonstrates about the strategy regarding women, you're going to find some interesting aspects. So go to the research, and you'll see that this has been exquisitely investigated.